Good morning and welcome to Gunner Shot. Gunner Shot में आप सबका स्वागत है. At the outset, my apologies. I couldn't start on time at 9 o'clock as I promised. Technical issues. Rainy season in Chennai is always iffy, but then, thank God, things righted. It's a matter of power, net, everything. We're going to talk of the India-China push-pull, and that's beyond Chai Ka Charcha. Let me explain. India and China are growing, and they're growing together. Well, the way I look at it, China has grown where it has to. It can't grow further. India is growing. And as India grows, it's at China's expense. China knows that. But for whatever it is, India and China are dependent on each other for many reasons. And that's coming out very clearly. And things are changing. The global order is changing. You have new conflicts coming up. You have the Japan China tiff on the horizon. It's not going to go away easily. Of course, US China is on there. There's also a changing equation between Pakistan and China, which is subtle. Now, all this, leads to a changed relationship between India and China. And that change started last year. It changes last year at Kazan, followed up in the SCO summit, and things. So, where is this relationship heading? Right? As usual, this is not an analysis from the Indian perspective. This is an analysis from the Chinese perspective, as always. Because getting their perspective of this relationship is important. And that is what we are going to do today, right? Yeah. Let's get going. 3 days back, this article came out in Bloomberg. Why India increasingly needs China and vice versa. This is something which everyone has started talking of. Not I. I spoke of this 4 months back. Even much before that. This push-pull thing is going to be a feature of the India-China relationship. And this is going to be unlike earlier. That you can take a guarantee from. Because China has changed, India has changed. On that, we should have no doubts. Right. The first few lines of this article define what's ahead. India and China share a complicated relationship. It is complicated. It's historical, contemporary, religious, ethnic, everything put together. The world's two populous nations are outright regional rivals who fought a border war in the 1960s. Relations have been at a low point since the border clashes in 2020. Right? So that's the basis. That basis won't change. This is the perception internationally. This is the perception in India. This is the perception in China also. The 1962 war is the baseline, and that won't change in everyone's thinking. Well, I always said, people say that, the way I define this, and this is something which I've got into my thinking of late. Who won the 1962 war? Militarily, China won. Politically, China lost. New way of thinking? Mao managed to alienate 1.4 billion Indians and recompounded it in 2020. And these 1.4 billion with China, 1.4 billion together would have dominated the world and changed the global scenario. But China chose not to do it. Who lost? China lost. Why? China had global ambitions, we never had it. So you'll have to look at these things from a different perspective. Am I carrying out revisionism? Maybe. But more than I, others are. There's the revisionism which is going on within China itself. So you have to look at this from different prisms. Let's look at China. And this article talks of these things. And this is a slide which I showed you some time back. And I'm just repeating it because this is what the article talks of. It talks of China's global ambitions. It talks of the global governance initiative, which was unveiled few months back, couple of months back. It talks of SCO Plus and the BRICS. These are the vehicles for China's global dominance. Plus, of course, manufacturing. Because everything else has failed. The BRI has failed, but the property, internal things have failed. Consumption has failed. Everything has failed in China. It's only manufacturing. If they don't manufacture, they're dead. Their property is. And none of these are going to recover. That's something which you have to understand. China's strength is its greatest vulnerability. And then this Saudi Pak China axis is emerging. We have to understand this. And China and Pakistan are at it. And so is Saudi. They want to hedge and leverage away from USA. But there's no going saying the fact. China's economy is declining. Many might say otherwise, but the fact is that their economy is declining. Their manufacturing output might increase, their influence might increase, the way people like to portray it. But their economy is declining, it's deflating. There's no consumerism. The Chinese people are getting poorer. I always said China is a rich state with poor people, and this contradiction will kill it. And there's involution. Involution is not going. The declining population is not going. China's problems cannot be reversed. And that's why I say China has peaked. But then that's a different story. Let's look at the India-China equation, right? And it's important to understand this equation very clearly. Look, this equation has been defined by the border issue, by the Pakistan angle, the regional influence in Asia, the global south and the competition there, and China's denial regime. It denies rare earths to India, tunnel boring machines. There's a huge trade imbalance. It does not want to import anything. The huge trade imbalance as of now, the trade between both the countries is something in the excess of $127 billion, and $109 billion is the export. Their import is very less. That is there. These are the issues. But for India, improving economic ties is a necessity. Right? You need investment from India, from China. You need technology from China. If you do that, you increase your dependency on China. That's the dilemma. And it's not only that, you need basic raw material and fundamental the primary goods from China, so that you can upmarket them and export them. That's how our economy has gone dependent on China. This is a problem. How do you get out of it? But for China, the thing is different. Improving economic ties with India is a necessity for China. It has to invest. It has to get the market of India. It has to come here. If it doesn't come here, China is sinking. China knows that. China has had experience of this. China seeks to reverse the strictures we put on their investment into India in 2020. And India is not going to change them. India has put new laws whereby Chinese investment will be channelized and restricted. And that India is not budging. China will have no choice but to impart with technology to India. If it wants a share of the Indian market, it has to part with technology. When it parts with the technology, it empowers India to be self-dependent or Atmanirbhar, autonomous, whatever you call it. It will slowly shut China out. They know this playbook because they enacted it with USA, they've enacted it with EU, and they're worried. So there is this revolving door phenomenon happening between India and China. That's playing out. And this is exactly what that foreign policy, the Bloomberg article talks of. This article which I started the day with, it talks of this. People are now realizing it. I spoke of it 6 months back. In fact, maybe much before that, but not in these terms. I coined this about 3, 4 months back. Right. Then 1 minute. I'll have to come back. Give me half a minute. Yeah, sorry. The second thing, this article in Foreign Policy came about a week back or 4, 5 days back. China and India are trapped in a loop. Same thing, but put in a different manner, right? Uh, it This article actually puts out the constraints in which China and India are operating with each other. What are those constraints? This author talks about unresolved border issue between India and China. That's a constant. It's already spanned 6 decades, 62 to now, more than that. In fact, it actually spans right from 1949-50 to now, 75 years. Right? Across those three sectors, Western, Central, and Eastern. This is at the heart of the whole story. The border issue is the basic thing. Whenever we talk of India, China, this will not run away. The second question, whether you recognize Tibet or not, Tibet is at the heart. It's a loop between India and China. That's also not running away. And that's not running away till such time the Central Tibetan Authority is in India. You might say you recognize Tibet as part of China. But when you have a government in exile in India, government of Tibet in exile in India, you're the Dalai Lama, the head of the temporal and the spiritual head of all Tibetans in India. China has a problem, and that's not running away. That's a lever which China is scared of. Because if Tibet goes from their hands at some point of time in life, in future, China disintegrates. Because Xinjiang will go and Manchuria will raise its flag, so will Taiwan. China knows it's sitting on a volcano. Let's have no doubt about it. Then, of course, this triangular relationship between India, Pakistan, and China, full of mistrust. Right? So, these three factors define this loop which this author is talking of. And he goes on to further thing. But these are the two crunch issues which I picked up. Three crunch issues from this article and the previous one, which I've explained. Now let's see how have the Chinese reacted to all this, and how do they look at it, and how are things shaping up. Just think, we're going to start this air connectivity. This air connectivity, where Air India has now announced that it's going to resume operations to mainland China, to Shanghai from 1st February. Indigo has already started to Guangzhou. Now, this is going to impact this relationship heavily because the trade is going to improve. We have to be careful. Why? Our trader community is weak, the Chinese trader community is strong. Our trader community wants quick profits. They want to get cheap stuff, all that. So, how do you guard this? One. Number two, how do you not get swamped by the Chinese outnumbering of flights? How do you restrict this? This is a challenge. So, as much as there's a pull, there's a push in this whole story. So everything you take about India, China, there's a push and a pull equation emerging. And that's something which we need to understand, right? And then China will do all this. I did a article. This is the map which China has put out without Kashmir. And where does this appear? It appears in an international event in Taiwan. If you don't object to this with the Taiwanese and internationally, they'll put it next in Dubai. So these factors are also coming in this play, right? Pharmaceuticals. This is going to be a major issue. 2 weeks back, I analyzed this article, which claims that, not claims, it analyzes how Indian pharmaceutical industry is very good and Chinese are trying to ape it and they're not able to do it. And how strong it is. And it was validated by various views from abroad. Following this, there's another article by a chap called Mao Keiji. Mao Keiji is the latest Chinese ideologue, analytical ideologue. He comes and talks about a lot of things. Then he goes on in this, it's a long article, typical Chinese propaganda, which analyzes why India's drug industry and pharmaceutical industry has to be dependent on China all for years to come, and we can't get away, and China will overtake India, all that. It has to come because one chap has given one view, they will give another view to kill that view. Well, you read this article. It's a very interesting article. There's one thing he has come out with. He's come out with how Indian government is doing what it needs to do for API, active pharmaceutical ingredients, which are the basic products or the key materials, KSM, right? To improve the quality of all this and localize them, or rather make them autonomous, indigenous. Well, I didn't know what Indian government is doing as far as APIs and all this is concerned till I read this article. So there's something happening, and the Chinese are monitoring it. He argues against this effort. That's a different story. He says we are very slow. That's a different story. But let's listen to what Indian government is doing. Okay, let me make it full so that you have a clear idea. He says at present, in order to enhance the independent production capacities of APIs and reduce external dependence, the Modi government has launched a number of special policies. That's interesting. So it's when people ask me, what is India doing about APIs? I'll show this article. It talks of the PLI, production related incentive schemes, production linked incentives, right? And he says we have with a total of 2.2 billion US dollars was launched to promote local production and export of 53 key pharmaceutical raw materials such as KSM, API and drug intermediaries in the 8 years since 2020. Okay, right. Then the second, he says 3 pharmaceutical industrial parks throughout India have been set up and are in the process of being set up, where we are investing about $394 million with a 5-year focus on mass production of drugs. Third, we are doubling the budget in the fiscal year 22-23 and more beyond. Okay, and we are giving 22.4 billion rupees, right, to promote development of the pharmaceutical industry. The Indian Science and Technology Association, that's how they call the CSIR, cooperates with local petrochemical enterprises under the framework of Make in India, to produce 56 APIs point to point. In addition, in order to promote the development of local industry, The competent department of the Indian pharmaceutical industry also stipulated that the proportion of APIs of drugs sold locally should reach at least 75%, and the proportion of exported drugs should also reach 10%. Overall, the Modi government's import substitution policy has made some progress, and 35 of the 53 key APIs have achieved local production. However, the problems faced by the Indian pharmaceutical industries are never essentially technical but cost related. Fine, I'm okay with this. What he's saying is no, India is doing everything but it can't reach. But what he's now said that out of the 56 API, 35 have local. Indian government has a policy where of all the drugs which are sold locally, 75% will be APIs will be from India, which means that Atmanirbhar, what we need, we get. What we have to export, make it 10%. I suppose as years go by, this will increase. We are okay. For the basic APIs, we will become self-dependent maybe in the next 5 years. For rest, you get from China. Why? There's a logic in this. The logic is APIs are contribute to pollution. They're heavy polluting industries. That's why we did away with them. If China is prepared to bear the cost of pollution, let them bear. And by the time you reach that 75% localization for local manufacture of drugs, your import would have been cut down by about 30%. The moment you cut down by 30 to 40%, China has no choice but to export APIs to you. They can't turn the tap off. And they're worried. It's a matter of time. What's happening between India and China, this push and pull, is a matter of time. And time is on India's side. Time is on India's side. Please understand that. Right? And that is something which we don't understand. We are in a hurry. Oh, China is there and we are not there. We'll get there. Sabar karo. And then today, Chinese industries want to get into India for their electric vehicles, subsidies, all that solar panels, batteries. But we are not letting them. Again, why? Localize it. They are worried. If they localize it, they lose technology. The moment we get the technology, we get the way forward, we will shut them out. And they've had bad experience in the solar panel industry already. Right? Of course, there's a danger in all this. They might corrupt our local businesses and set up local businesses and through Benami methods, or some of our governments have allowed it. But if you put things strictly in place, it will be culled. This article suggests they have no place other than India to go to for these now. The big markets, where are the big markets? The big markets are India and USA. The consuming markets. Their market is an involution. So when you look at the push-pull of India, we have strengths. Between India and China, you have strengths. And that's what they say. Let's turn to defense. This article in Guancha, they talk of Nyoma Air Base. It's just 30 kilometers away from which is coming. Okay? No, but they're worried. They started analyzing it. It's only 30 kilometers from the LAC. With hardened shelters, everything has come. I've been to Nyoma Air Base long back. At the time when it was being constructed. In fact, we started with the ALG, UAV base. Now it's come into a full air base, which is good. Just think, you have an air base at DBO, you have an air base at Toys, you have an air base at Leh, you have an air base at Nyoma now. 4 air bases. Someday I'll talk of infrastructure there. As part of our travelogue, we'll talk of it. Oh man, you're in a different grid altogether. You're just 30 kilometers away. Their single airbase at Nagari and that one at Hotan is just about 100 kilometers away. Hotan is about 200 kilometers away. So they're stuck. Well, you might say being so close to the LAC, you're at a disadvantage. Fine, prepare for it. A base so close to the LAC defends the LAC. You can argue against, but I'll argue for. You don't have to base there, but a base there gives you the capability to step up. It gives you offensive capability. It gives you the capability to sustain operations into Tibet and Xinjiang beyond the immediate. Look at it. Look at it from a Chinese perspective. And plus, wars don't happen daily. For people there, up in DBO, up in Chushul, up in Hanle, up in Demchok, just think of having an air base there and supplies landing directly there. Of course, that pass is open always. Changla is always open. Okay, it's kept open. Changla pass is kept open. Changla is the second highest pass there after Kardungla. But yet, day-to-day necessities, you need an air base. And Myanmar being there, oh wow, it's a big difference if you have to go there to understand it. What about your surveillance activities? The surveillance activities are 365 days. You might not have a war for the next 40, 50 years. But this air base there changes the scenario and they're worried. So those of you who think, oh, China is on the front foot and we are on the back foot, sorry. I'm giving you Chinese views in this push-pull equation. They have given hue and cry about Fujian, the third aircraft carrier which they've commissioned. They came out with this article. Well, everything they have spoken of, they have said Fujian ship officially put into service. India exclaimed decades of aircraft carrier advantage has been reversed. Of course, some of our people have said, look, this will reverse here, wo. They feel it will be done, but they know heart of hearts if you examine this article, difficult. You see, our aircraft carrier can operate between India and Andaman Nicobar with freedom. That's 700 to 1,000 kilometers of air, open sea, blue sea. You can go beyond Maldives. You can go up to the east coast of Africa with your 2 aircraft carriers and operate. But can the Chinese do that? They can't. They can't exit the South China Sea. The moment they do exit the South China Sea, their tail is vulnerable. The tyranny of distance. They cut. And they know it. And this article talks of it. And I'll talk one of these days about the continental and the maritime dimensions of China's, what shall I say, military orientation or whatever. I'll talk of it. Because I think it's time we understood that in its true sense. Rather than thinking that, a lot of loose statements come out. That China has got the biggest navy and this and that. It's not so. They're caught. The Chinese are caught. They might have 10 aircraft carriers, but they can't leave the shores. That's the push-pull you're creating. You have a huge ocean with the adequate navy. They have a huge navy without any ocean. They have a problem. And they're worried. You can talk Quad is gone, ye gone, wo gone. But look at the Chinese. Earlier this month, there was a Malabar exercise in Guam. An exercise between India, USA, Australia and Japan. Everyone talks of India-US relations going off track. There might be, the trade relations are rocky. I have no doubt about it. We have to restart it. But the defense relations, as I've been speaking, are going ahead. 10-year defense pact. A team from IDS goes to Indo-Pacific Command. There's a Air Force exercise done. There's military army exercise done in Alaska. Now a naval exercise. It's on a different grid altogether. In fact, it's going up. The number of exercises between India and US are going up. And look at China. Look at Chinese and their threat perceptions. I've always spoken of China as having four-front problem. They have a four-front problem. Don't have doubts. The Korean Peninsula, Taiwan, South China Sea, and India. Well, there's a fifth front which has come up, Japan. And this fifth front is between the first front and the second front. And who's sustaining Quad? It's not India, it's not USA, it is Japan and Australia, which will not let go of either India or USA. And this is the sense I get from when I discuss with these people. How can we survive without India and USA? Their reasoning is simple. The reasoning is we need USA here. We know India will not come. But USA will not be with us unless India takes care of the Indian Ocean. India gives strength to Japan and Australia by being in the Indian Ocean and dominant in the Indian Ocean and accepting responsibility for the Indian Ocean. It frees USA to concentrate on Western Pacific if needed. That is why all this. If needed, India can step forward. Remember, two things have happened in the recent past. One, India has exercised with Philippines in the South China Sea 2 months back, 3 months back. India has been invited to carry out patrol of the Malacca Straits. Our footprint is expanding and China is worried. There's a change. I hope you guys are getting it. And this change is quite predominant. Coming out of Chinese. See, to assess your own strength, you should listen to what your opponent talks of you. And recently, there are some events in Cochin. Prime Minister attended it, launch of ships, all that. We'll not get into it. But there's a commentary about Indian shipbuilding today. They're talking. It says, look, India is looking at shipbuilding in a big way. It's going to get into competition here and they talk of Prime Minister Modi boasting about our shipbuilding and all that. Yeah, we might not match the Chinese or the Japanese or the Korean today. Tomorrow we will. I couldn't care a damn whether we match them or not. I'm not interested. Let's be self-sufficient. If you are self-sufficient, your home base is strong, rest everything is okay. And that this article proves so. It's not only that. Let me tell you, having been in L&T Defense for 8 years, I was on the board. The L&T shipyard was also under us. L&T Shipbuilding was part of the L&T Defense. One of the problems which I realized, I won't say problems, one of the things which I realized about the entire Indian shipbuilding is that we have capacity we can't use. We have capacity we can't use. I'm telling you this now. For whatever reason. We have a lot of slack. And today, the government is first filling this slack up. Rather than expanding your shipbuilding capacity, your existing shipbuilding capacity has to be fully engaged 365 days in a year and up to the brim for further expansion. That is happening. And the day that slack is taken up, Things will change. In fact, one of the important things about the maritime space, I mean, not maritime space, the maritime space, cooperation between maritime defense cooperation, maritime cooperation between India and USA is refit of US ships in Indian shipyards. If they don't want to send their ships all the way back to USA. They'd rather do it locally here. And that is something which I don't think has stopped, because whether Trump says whatever he wants or not, a ship which is under refit in Katupalli shipyard in L&T can't go back to Oregon and get it, whatever has to happen there or wherever. That's continuing. That's increasing. It makes sense. That's part of the basic thing which we had in USA on the LMOA, logistics and all that. So, China realizes this. We need to realize it, because the Chinese are telling us this is where you are going. We don't seem to be understanding our own thing. And then of course there is this thing which we have to understand. The more we struggle against Chinese, the more we are dependent on them. How do you get out of that is the challenge. So far we have not got out of it. You have to export more, you need more of China. And that's what this article argues. So that push-pull, it's not as if it's a one-way street. China has a lot of pulls with them. But those pulls equally are not as if they can completely shut the tap. They can't shut the tap. But they have the pulls. So this Kenchatani will continue. The Kenchatani will continue. And it's no more a chai pa charcha. Something beyond that. Okay. Today, there's a funny thing. China has gone to WTO complaining against India giving subsidies to battery makers, EVs and all that. They say India giving subsidies to its EV makers works against WTO principles. And this is coming from China. China has complained. It feels threatened by our subsidies. The whole world is feeling threatened by Chinese subsidies, but they don't talk of it. Of course, it's the typical way of the kettle calling the pot black. But that's okay. This is the thing which is emerging. It's not the size of the economy. It's not the size of the dog. It's not the size of the dog with, talks of the thing. It's the fight in the dog. It's not the size of the economy. It's the vitality of your economy which defines the fight. In that, I have no doubt. Our Indian economy is far more, got more vitality than the Chinese economy today. They're struggling. And this one Exobis Bahadur, this art cinema which has come, I expect more reaction from China. This is the first reaction. Whatever they have written, why is this important? This is probably the first picture on the recent times when we are absolutely, it's a war picture against the Chinese, where we have highlighted whatever. Yeah, in this article, if you go, it's a full thing about how the China-India war went in 62, how they defeated us. We know that. I can write it better than what the bugger has written, how we got defeated. But for the first time, someone is saying, oh, we've also fought. And I wish more. And they talk of the Battle of the Zangla. And I'm sure I'll get someone who can talk of the Battle of the Zangla. Not that I don't know, but I'll get someone else. so that you have two views about it. This is important because this is for the first time symbolic that we have come out with a clear cut movie about the Chinese against the Chinese militarily. I expect sooner than later another movie coming out on Galwan and LAC and all that should come. So far, if you see, there are no movies against China by Bollywood. This is probably the first one. We need to do more. Part of strategic communication, part of many things promoting our own thinking about China. I hope we do more. And then I want to see 20 articles like this coming out in Chinese stories. And then, of course, the other point of push and pull is Pakistan, that triangle which I spoke of in the beginning, in that loop in which India, Pakistan, and China are stuck. Part of that loop, Pakistan is in a mess and they know it and they've started analyzing it. This is by Lee Zhongyi. He says internal disease and external treatment makes Pakistan complete. Can Pakistan turn around? They know that Pakistan is no more an asset for them. It's a liability. You can talk of Saudi, Pakistan, China axis in the long term. Fine. You can talk of, India, you can talk of USA, Pakistan, China triangle, which I spoke of yesterday. It's historic. You can speak of China, Pakistan economic corridor, China, Pakistan, everything. You can also talk of the Afghanistan, Pakistan, China triangle. सब में कबाब में हड्डी है इंडिया, देयर नो डाउट, बट सबसे बड़ा कबाब जो सड़ा हुआ कबाब है वो पाकिस्तान है. सड़ा हुआ कबाब है वो, कबाब में हड्डी नहीं है, सड़ा हुआ है. rotten kebab, that's Pakistan. They talk of that. This article describes in detail what the problems Pakistan is facing today and how it is imbalanced. How they talk of Balochistan, the problems, KPK, they know problem of Indus water, everything which we talk, they're talking. And China is worried. They've invested too much in Pakistan. No returns. This is the latest. Push and pull. We have to be alive to this fact. If there is a problem between USA and China, if there's a problem between China and Japan, if there's a problem between China and anyone, what is the opportunity for us? This is a multilateral world. We are free agents to do what we want. Japan exports a lot of fish to China. Today, because of that spat, China is not taking fish from Japan. But the fact is, China needs food. Food security is weak in China. There is already a rally happened where China is now turning to India for fish. Can you look at these opportunities? If there's a problem between USA and China, are there opportunities like this? How do you maximize it? Go back to that first slide which I showed, interdependencies. Right? You have to look at that back. Right? And unless you do that, unless you think differently, you're going to have a problem. And today I'll end my discussion with this. Get back to this slide. As we go along, as part of this push and pull story, We have to uh, improve our economic ties and reduce dependency on China. That's the challenge. That API model, which Mao KG has said, gives you the way. You need API, take it from him, but you have adequate capacity by which you say, okay, I have this capacity. I can cater for my domestic market with my own API. So I'm self sufficient. For export, I'll take API from you. As your domestic capacity increases to a threshold level, your dependence on China reduces. He can't do anything to you. It's then his necessity to sell. That's a great model. 2 years back or 3 years back, when I said, a lot of questions used to come. How can we be self-dependent in APIs? We don't have to be 100%. Maybe in years to come, we'll be self-dependent. That's okay for even our export. That is further. But today, intermediate, this push and pull business, we are doing well. You seen about fish, create dependencies and exploit dependencies. As things, the global order is changing and new conflicts are coming and new issues are coming, new opportunities are also coming, and we need to leverage it, and that's where your multilateralism will work. Equally, for China, we have to realize that improving economic ties with India is a necessity. But they have a problem. They have to develop India, and we need to bind them in. That's the challenge. So far, you might say that we're not doing well. I have no problem. But the Chinese think we are doing it. I hope you understood what I'm saying. Things are changing. When I say India, there's nothing, you can't stop India. This is one part of the story that why you can't stop India. You can't stop India. China remains our biggest challenger on many fronts. We'll solve it. For me, the thorn in our side is Pakistan. We'll talk of that also. We'll talk of it tomorrow, day after, we'll talk. But analysis on China is important. I do hope you all liked what I spoke today. If you liked it, do press the like button. Also, subscribe to Gunner Shot and press that bell icon. And I'd like you all to become members of Gunner Shot. I'm sorry again that I had to start this today half an hour later. We'll go ahead. I'll take a few questions. And in the evening, 7:15, we're going to have a discussion with Sanjay Dikshit and Rajiv Narayanan. I don't know the topic. I'm sure he'll come out with it. Join me then. Till then, I'll take a few questions. Yeah, thanks a lot, HD6508, for becoming a member. Grateful. I would like more to join in. Yeah, Sham, thanks a lot. Absolutely better content than any other channel. Well researched material presented in a simple way. Thanks, sir. Yeah, Ramki Ramkrishnan, good morning. Great insights at three good generals last evening. How are Xi Jinping and Chang Yuxia managing to coexist despite purging and distrust? See, the fact is, Chang Yuxia and Xi Jinping are childhood friends. So that must be kicking in. I'm not sure about it. But we'll watch which way the whole drift is taking place. Because as I speak, today also I saw others are getting purged. In that Fujian inauguration, three admirals were absent. The purge is continuing. Where it goes, we'll have to see. Yeah, love this topic and it needs to be heard. They can always cancel me. Yeah, thanks a lot. And no one will cancel you. Just continue. And Jai Hind and Jai Bharat, Akash, thanks a lot. Ladybird Haru, good morning. And Praval, good morning. And Amitesh, good morning to you. And Kumar Swami, good morning. And Kiran, good morning. I call out each of you because you come daily, whether you're members or not. You make my day. Yeah, both Chinese and Indian industries are heavily dependent on each other. There will be more interdependence that you can't stop it. Devil's Phonics, Jai Bharat. Sincere appreciation, sir. I've always been asking all sorts of questions, but you keep forgetting to thank you for all the time and effort to educate us. Your sessions are like classes that students love. Thanks a lot. That's a great honor for me personally. Manufacturing will be there, but not markets to sell. Many countries are building manufacturing capacity. So in the next 10 years will be the lowest. Look, people will come to India because you have your own. You're a domestic consumer, and we don't manufacture enough for our own consumption. The day that happens, you're on a different wicket altogether. Okay, I won't agree. Pakistan attack India after independence, fought for war with India, and sponsoring will still Aman ki Asha gang with Pakistan. I don't know what you're talking, Amitesh, today. China is spending $250 billion on military and 720 on education. India is spending 80 on military and 115 on education. Our priorities are wrong. That's okay, but we are still doing okay. We're not badly off. Yeah, yeah. Can't miss the 9 o'clock show. Thanks a lot. And the above figures are in US dollars, right? Uh, yeah, let me. Why is China so touchy? Hi, shake hands. Good show. Yeah, I'm shaking hands with my grandson. Okay, he's on the sidelines. Right. Why is China so touchy? Takaichi Sane merely said that a Taiwan invasion would be a security issue for Japan. She didn't ask them to invade. So this overreaction reeks of insecurity. 100% agree with you, Shritik, and we'll analyze this maybe tomorrow or day after because things are getting worse as days go by. Okay. Hmm. Okay. Let me see another question. Right. Let's. I'm glad you people are also discussing issues based on your own deductions and all, what ChatGPT says. But ChatGPT gives you, only what you input you get out. So to large extent, it could be garbage in and garbage out. I don't trust it. I get the basics, then do my own analysis. Yeah. Where are Ashish Hegde and Sundar Krishna? They'll join in. There comes Ashish. He says he's listening. Okay. Uh, Pollution is a global phenomenon. It will affect everyone. I agree with you, but you should not take on additional pollution if you can. More manufacturing is more pollution, right? So we have to be at an optimum level and flatten out there. Even if you have to be import dependent on certain issues, that's okay. Hmm. Developing technology should not be that hard by our own. It's not, but it's time consuming. It's not going to happen overnight. Most of us want all this developed overnight. It will not happen. This ecosystem is to expand, and it has expanded. And it is expanding. Yeah, API are very heavy pollution chemicals. There should be a balance. 75% homegrown, 25% import is a good balance growth in pollution. I completely agree with you, Chandra Sivaram. In fact, I would put it this way: 50% dependence is good enough. Self, homegrown, and another 50% import is also okay. Maybe at some point of time when your method of going about and reducing pollution and controlling pollution in your manufacturing system through better technology comes in, then you can reduce or rather increase your own API production. Hmm. Sorry, could not attend yesterday's program in Bangladesh, but view it, and I'm going to continue. We're going to talk next of the political history of Bangladesh. Most of us don't understand Bangladesh because we didn't know where Bangladesh comes from. It comes from East Pakistan. We don't understand where East Pakistan comes from because it goes into pre-independence and the thinking of why all this happened. Must understand the root cause of the partition didn't start in West Pakistan. It started here in Dhaka. We'll start from there. Okay. Yeah. Was the following drone testing imitating Mars surface by DRDO or ISRO? Whatever be the trials, results will be a great promise. Yeah, I agree with you completely. Look, as far as Mars are concerned, everything, we have been at it. I know one of my teams in IIT Madras uh, gave a Mars rover for trials in an international competition in in USA, and it came third or fourth in that. So we been at it in one form or the other. So I have no problem. Okay. Okay. India has diversified shrimp exports using an export model with raw economic intelligence unit. Yep, we are all at it. Um, right. So thoroughly enjoyed the podcast. The Chinese leadership and misguided Chinese people are unable to comprehend that Chinese are taking place in the region. Yeah, they don't know what to do. Art is the reality, but they are keeping track of what we are doing. They keep a lot of track of what we are doing. That's what comes out in this. They're tracking everything. They're tracking your infrastructure, they're tracking your military, they're tracking your industry, they're tracking your innovation and everything. Of course, they're all comparing with what they have and what we don't have. But that's changing. That's why they're comparing. The fact that they're doing this comparison indicates to you that we are their main competitor. Why no defense exercises with this Australia independent of God? No, we are doing it. Just for your information, we are doing it. Yeah, given the nuclear arms hangover aside from Sudarshan Chakra, should India think of two underground cities to be built by 2035? No, no, I don't think we need all that. How about a Tibetan Air Force consisting of F-35? Yeah, I like it. Recent anti-Modi YouTube channels are celebrating the recent report of USS Congressional report about Pakistan being victorious. All that is nonsense. We spoke about it yesterday in great detail, so don't worry about it. Oh. Sir, the wolf warrior bravado against the Japanese. Does the CCP consider Japanese as easy prey versus India, US knowing fully well that the US squad will step in if anything happens? We'll discuss this tomorrow or day after. US, China, Japan. As much as they're talking, they're worried about militarism in Japan. And if Japan militarizes, China will be the most worried. And we have to consider it in their forefront theory, and we'll talk of it tomorrow or day after. Right? Um, yeah. Good morning, sir. Most prudent suggestions. Thanks a lot. Uh, yeah. Great presentation, sir. Put it in Substack also. I'll do that. I'll let me see how I can put this presentation itself on Substack. I'll learn about it and do it. Can you cover Turkey's growing influence in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Pak? I'll do that. I'll do that. I think it's important. I've done one episode on how we are going to handle Turkey and how we have done outreach to Armenia, Greece, and all that, but I'll do something on Turkey down the line. Good morning, General. Wonderful presentation. Thank you. Excellent analysis and insights. Thank you. Yeah, just send this to everyone. That's what I would like you to do. Thanks a lot, Ashish, for your super sticker. Okay, I have done for the day, and we've answered all questions. I've taken everyone's views at least once or twice. Thanks a lot for all of you for attending. Join us in the evening at 7:15 with Sanjay Dixit and Rajiv. We're going to have an interesting talk, I'm sure, because Sanjay Dixit of Jaipur Dialogues comes out with always something interesting for us to discuss. Till then, have a great day and Jai Hind to all of you. Thank you.